Hello everyone. How many of you here have seen this website, Dagger? All right, a few. Nice. Okay, we'll have some fun. All right. I had two problems in 2021. The first one was my big tech job, and the second one was the CI/CD space. And they're more related than you think. In a big tech company, what normally happens is things move very slowly. It's just a number of people. There's nothing you can do about it. You can optimize and make it more efficient, but a lot of the times things can usually get worse. There's a lot of process, there's a lot of teams, you just have to play that game. Some people love it, others don't. CI/CD is a little bit like that because a lot of the times things are slower than you would want them to be. So you're impatient, you have to push, you have to wait, oh, I got it wrong, try again. So there's quite a bit of back and forth. And I wish it was quicker. So this was my solution. This was November 2021 when I solved my CI/CD problem. I hope that QR code works for everyone. If not, that's okay. We can talk about it later. And what happened here, we had to migrate the CI from Circle CI to GitHub Actions. The reason why we did that is because Circle CI was going through a bad time. This was the changelog.com infrastructure and the changelog.com setup. It is a monolithic app. It's Elixir. It's not very cloud native, even though it has been running successfully on Kubernetes for many years. And now it runs on fly.io. That happened before this, with the migration from Kubernetes to fly.io. That is a different talk. So when we migrated from Circle CI to GitHub Actions, I was thinking, okay, so what is involved? The first thing is YAML. There's a lot of YAML. And for some reason, I wasn't getting too excited about converting from one YAML format to another YAML format. It's just how CIs are configured these days. It is unfortunate, but it's simple, and it works for most. Read the documentation, do the implementation, it works, you can forget about it. I was thinking, surely there must be a better way. And I had this email sitting in my inbox, an invite, a private beta invite to Dagger. I said, okay, that looks cool, I should try it out. I did. I wrote my config, I tried it out, it works. The pipeline was a lot quicker, I could run it locally. It was good, it was a good change. On the top right-hand side, we had a celebratory drink that was Merry Shipmas. We talked about it at length. There's a story there. There's a pull request 395. It's all public. You can read it. Screenshots, everything. And that's what it looked like on the right-hand side, down at the bottom, running it locally. But we'll get to that in a minute. OK. My name is Gerhard Lazu. I'm a senior software engineer at Dagger.io. And I was very excited to be joining the team that created Docker. Solomon, Sam, and Andrea, Docker Swarm, Docker itself, BuildKit, a couple of other things. They did some amazing things, and they've been at it for a while. And I enjoyed talking to them. I enjoyed interviewing them, and apparently they enjoyed interviewing me. So in January, I joined them, and I've been with them ever since. It's been a great ride. OK. Today, I will be talking about an electric automation engine, which is how I think of Dagger, and a few others think of Dagger too that way. So why is this important? Well, sustainability keeps coming up. As Johan knows, some are more committed than others. And it is an important thing. Tim, I see you there. Rust, OK. That's what's just like gone through my mind right now, so I'm mentioning it. And sustainability, automation, and electric cars have something very interesting in common. They're trying to drive us forward. They're trying to imagine another future. We are not there yet, but it's something worth doing. The reason why this is important is because CIs are inefficient. CIs are slow these days. They're complicated, and they could be simpler, but to simplify them takes a lot of effort. So why would you do that? Well, it's something worth doing. You are going to do many great things for many people that you are maybe even working with today. as we'll see in a minute. Okay, so what is a good CI/CD system? For me, a good CI/CD system, first of all, it has to run locally. That is something which I loved about Docker when it first came out. You could run it locally. It was simple, intuitive, and I really liked that. The other thing was it should be fast. Okay, I'm not sure how fast Docker is today for you. I mean, my experience has degraded, especially on a Mac, but it's still good, it's still decent. There are other alternatives, but it should work quickly. And by quickly, I mean, I'm thinking seconds, less than a minute, right? And something should happen. You shouldn't need to wait a long time for things to reconcile, as amazing as that is. Sometimes you want speed over consistency, sometimes. Also, once you solve this problem once on your laptop or whichever platform, whether it's Linux, whether it's Mac, Windows, doesn't really matter, it should run the same everywhere. And this was something that was a very good idea that Docker had, and I really like that. It was a good promise, something worth working towards for sure. So apparently, many people feel this way about their CI/CD system. This is ossinsight.io. It is a public website. It scrapes all the events from GitHub, and it tries to create categories for different types of software. We're looking at the CI/CD category, and this was November 2021, when Nectos Act was just as popular as Jenkins when it comes to stars. Nectos Act is a tool that you install and you run locally to run your GitHub Actions pipelines locally. So people apparently find this interesting. This is August 2022. This was when I last checked it. And Nectos Act, again, it's not a CI/CD system. It just enables people to run their GitHub Actions locally. It's on the trajectory to becoming the most popular CI/CD system on GitHub, based on the number of stars. There's just drone ahead of it. You can see the curve. It's very sharp. I would not be surprised if by the end of this year, Nectos Act would be the most popular CI/CD system. Okay, so I made a couple of assumptions here. I mostly gave myself as an example, but how many here would like to run your CI/CD pipelines locally? Okay, so quite a few. Okay. So in my case, one thing which keeps coming up is great. It's like, it's my pipelines, but what about the projects that I contribute to? If I want to help someone with a little bug fix, how do I run someone else's pipeline locally? Where do I even start? Do I have to create a fork, create a commit, push, how does that work? And that is quite a lot of time investment for the smallest of things. Does it work? To answer just, will it work? So I only have Git, that's my starting point, and this is the host that I will be using to run it. This is a Debian host. Any cloud provider that you go, you just provision a VM. Even Vagrant, it's just Linux. So anywhere you go, Debian, very simple. It has nothing on it other than Git, and that's very important. Okay. I git clone the repository. In this case, is a Dagger repository, and I run install sh, it's just a script, to get the binary. Okay, super simple. It works on any platform, the install script, and for Windows, there's another path. So this is Linux. We're using the Linux version or the Mac version. Cool. We have a couple of actions that we could run. Can everybody see, by the way? They're right there at the top. So we have 4 actions that we could run. We could do a build, we could do a test, lint, or we could do git pod. What should we run? Any suggestions from anyone? What would you like to run? Lint? Yes. Excellent. That's exactly what we're going to do. Bin Dagger do lint, and there we hit our first problem. The first problem is it's failed, so we don't have Docker. So why is Docker important at this stage? Dagger version 0.2, and this will become important a bit later, by default, it manages a build kit container that it will attempt to spin up in a Docker instance. So by default, just by having the CLI, it's expecting to be able to spin up a build kit container. If you have a build kit host, then this doesn't even get invoked. You don't need Docker. What it actually needs is that buildkit host buildkit instance. Okay, so I install Docker, still Git and Docker, nothing else, and I'm going to time the Dagger do lint just to see how long it takes. So what we're seeing here is a bunch of linters are being configured. We're linting Q, we're linting Go, we're linting Markdown, we're linting Shell. There's like a lot of stuff being linted. And because this is a fresh install, it has to pull down a bunch of artifacts. And what that means, it's usually a bunch of images. In this case, we run the Go run. That takes quite a while. We have 30 linters just in Go alone. This is slightly sped up, but not by much. We are almost at the minute mark. It's almost done. So again, very important. I have nothing on my machine, just Git and Docker, and all of this Dagger makes it happen. So in this case, to run all the linters for this project that I've just only heard about, it took 1 minute and 24 seconds. Okay, that's not bad. What are we going to ask next? The thing which I would ask next is, can we do better? Always. Can we do better? Can we improve a little bit? Apparently, I'm not the only one. Eric Bernhardson also has a very astute observation. It's pretty crazy how inefficient most CI systems are today. We're spending 99% of the time reinstalling 99% of the same dependencies as last time and recompiling the same code as last time. It's just crazy. How did we end up in this situation? That's a great question. This was July, so fairly recent. Okay, so if we run the same command again, nothing has changed. We just ran it once, and now we're running it for the second time. What changes? So just the seconds are going up. Things are happening. It's trying to figure out, so what changed? And apparently nothing. Nothing changed. So if nothing changes, just to orchestrate everything, all the, in this case, containers that need to spin up, but you don't see them, by the way. I'm going into implementation detail. It takes 26 seconds. That is the important thing. So we went from 1 minute and 24 to 26 seconds simply by running it again. What happens if you run it again? Do you think it gets better? No, it doesn't. That's it. Okay? So the reason why it gets better is because Dagger version 0.2, and we'll come back to that later, it runs operations in BuildKit. And some operations can be cached, and some operations aren't cached, depending on what changes. So if you're familiar with the Dockerfile experience, you change a line, you run it again, some of those instructions are cached. It's exactly the same principle. But in this case, it's not Dockerfile runs or commands. It's actually instructions that Dagger sends to BuildKit and just knows what needs to happen. It's mostly a combination of Dagger and BuildKit. All right. So in this case, we went from an uncached build to a cached build, a 3.2 times improvement, 24 seconds instead of 84. This makes me think about electric motors. It so happens that electric motors are 4 times more efficient at converting energy into movement, into kinetic energy. So converting, whether it's diesel or petrol or whatever, they're fairly inefficient. There's a lot of heat, there's just a lot of things. An electric one is 4 times more efficient. Obviously, there's like a few variations. We all know that not all engines are the same. Okay, some are more powerful, some are less powerful. The same commands, if I run on an RS, does anyone recognize that badge? It's a favorite of mine, Rennsport, I think, RS, yes, that's right. So same commands on a host which, and I know you can't see that, let's see if we can do a bit of magic. Let's see, will that work? Yes, it will, all right. An AMD Ryzen 7, you know, like a Pro, it's something that people use for gaming, I hear. I use it for builds, it's fast. It's NixOS, it makes no difference. It doesn't matter what operating system it is. The one thing which we can't see here is the NVMe drives. They're very fast NVMe drives. Nothing different than, for example, you have in your latest MacBook Pro, the ARM M1 Max models. So we went from 84 seconds to 35 seconds. Same thing first time, faster network, faster CPU, faster disks. We ran the same command. We went from 20-something to 9 seconds, 26, I think. So it's 3 times quicker running the same thing. Hosts will make a big difference. Fast CPUs will make a big difference. Fast network, all that. Okay. Now, I have been talking about BuildKit quite a bit, and you may be wondering, what is BuildKit? I want to know more. Well, Eric Sipsma, he's my colleague, he gave a talk at PlatformCon earlier this year about BuildKit, what it is, how it works. So what we're seeing there is the different operations which can be cached and how BuildKit interprets them. Whether it's a Docker file, whether it's some other way of giving it instructions, it just sees them as operations. What we're seeing here is like the red crosses are the ones which need to rerun. Okay, the cache is invalidated, something has changed in a previous step, it just needs to rerun it, it has a DAG, it resolves it, and it will converge beautifully and everything will be amazing, right? Okay. Good talk. Again, QR code if you want to check it out. I think it's 13 minutes the talk, 15 minutes, so shorter than this one. I think it's worth watching if you just want to understand a bit more what BuildKit is, and it's so much more than you see it via Docker. Okay, so at this point you may be wondering, hey, you've been talking about cars and electric engines, but what is the connection? What is the connection to Dagger? And this is the person that I blame for this image that he created in my mind, and now I just couldn't get it out. So when I proposed the talk, that's what I had in mind.
Dagger is two things, right? It's a tool, but it's also an engine. And the engine is kind of inside, and it has all these capabilities. And then around it is a tool. And if you notice, all the stuff we just talked about, oh, this API was confusing, we had this, it was Dagger up, now it's Dagger do. Oh, we have this concept of inputs that's now different because it was confusing. All of that stuff is the tool, right? So it's kind of the wrapper around the engine. And so there's two approaches, right? Either you start from the tool and then you iterate and you basically almost fake it. You know, there's almost no engine, or it's like a really basic made up engine that does the bare minimum. And then you validate the need, you validate the right UX, and then, only then, you ship the absolute bare minimum tool with the shitty engine, because if you otherwise it's over engineering. You're investing too much in the engine in the back end, and probably you're going to throw it all away because you don't really know what's needed, right? And then over time you gain more confidence and you re-engineer, you scale, etc. That's the normal, correct, proper, common sense way of building a product. And then there's the other way, which is that you're actually inventing a new engine, and you just kind of go in a leap of faith that that engine is just so much better in some way than what existed before, that you just have this unstoppable gut feeling that, okay, this engine needs to exist, and there's 1,000 different tools that can be built on it, and we're not sure which one, but we'll figure it out. And so you start from the engine, and then basically you just take the analogy of a car, you invent the new car engine that just blows away everything else, and then you just kind of slap together a shitty car around it. and then you ask a few people, hey, you want to drive my shitty car? You're like, yeah, I guess. Wow, you got really a lot of work to do. And then they go inside, and it goes from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour, or it flies or something. But there's no doors. So like, so that, well, I'm very confused by your dashboard design, but wow, I'm flying.
All right. So what is a car that people imagine when you hear someone talking about this engine? No doors. Do you have a picture in mind? A what? A CE.
It's fast, but no doors.
All right. Which one? Which car was that? I didn't get it. The language. Oh, I see. Okay, I see. Okay. So this is the car which I had in mind when we talked about it. Like, what does it? How does this even work? By the way, this car, you can't see it in this picture, but it doesn't have a steering wheel. Like, what do I do? Like, okay, so I just sit, and it's just like, how do I tell it where to take me? So the fact that it is from a Californian film set, there's no coincidence. Okay, so yeah. But what else is it? I mean, that was fun, it was great, but how does it help you? You're trying to build a CI/CD pipeline, you're trying to wrangle all these tools. What else is it? I mean, okay, an engine, but I don't need an engine. I need like a solution for my CI/CD problem.
What's interesting to me with Dagger is it's a bridge. You know, you can actually solve a problem now using Dagger by writing software for it. And the software you're writing is it's pipelines that deploy applications, etc. But really, it's software. And then over time, you discover new uses for it because there's a lot of different kinds of software, I think, that can be structured as a DAG. And you have to make the effort to structure it that way. But once you have, all of a sudden, it's faster, it's more scalable, it's more secure. You're basically freed from the you're freed from the shackles of Unix, basically. And you still get Unix compatibility because you can run Linux containers, 1 or 2 or 10 or 100. But now basically we're taking Linux and we're making it one component into a broader platform. And that's like a lot of people are doing that, but they're doing it from scratch, and they're making a frontal assault on mainstream platforms. Like, oh, stop using, for your next web application, develop it on this wonderful thing, but no one does it, right? But I think once you've developed your pipeline with Dagger, you start realizing, oh, well, in my case, I could ship my my objectives. I can generate a PDF from a configuration file with my quarterly objectives, and I can write a program. I can write a program that generates a PDF exactly the way I like it, which I would never do in any other platform, but I did it because it took me like 30 minutes.
You actually did. You would not believe it. Solomon used Dagger to define our company objectives in a DAG and basically export it to a PDF. And it did take him 30 minutes. That was crazy. Like I didn't even think that was possible. So he proved it. Not public. Anyways, This was basically an excerpt from launching Dagger. We talked about this again. QR code. This is shipit.show/48, and we talked with Sam, Solomon, Eric, and Andrea about what it took to ship Dagger. What did it take to just make it public, get it out there, and see what the people think? And for those that have been paying attention, I mentioned how I solved my CI/CD problem. I didn't mention how I solved my big tech problem, my big tech job problem. This episode has the answer, so for those interested, you can go and check it out. All right. The truth is that people like different things. In my case, I prefer the buttons on the left-hand side. My son, he prefers the buttons on the right-hand side. Same car, different generations. One are, you can feel them. You know when the heating goes up, you know when the heating goes down. You don't have to look basically to make any changes. On the right-hand side, a slightly newer model, the digital surfaces. They have their use cases, but when you're going on the Autobahn, 160 miles per hour, 170, over 250, it's very difficult to adjust the heating, right, when you have a digital surface. Now, I do not recommend doing that, but I do recommend using the Autobahn as it is designed, and I think there's something to be said there. Anyways, preferences, okay? So Dagger version 0.2, which is the version that you would get today if you go to the Dagger repository, the Dagger website, that's what you download. It reads the configuration from Q files, and Q is a JSON superset. It has auto formatting. For those that love Go formats, there's a Q format, so there's no debates about what is right and what is wrong. It has type checking. You can declare your types. It has packages. It's very similar to Go, and there's no coincidence. And Dagger reads those instructions that it's more like a declaration. People declare their pipelines or their operations in Q files. They get merged, and Dagger runs them as operations in BuildKit. Some people love this. I think, personally, that it's a better approach than YAML, but not everyone enjoys writing Q. It's just a preference thing. Okay. So you recognize this picture. This was the one at the very beginning. And the reason why this picture is important is because, again, we keep coming back to that engine. There's all these components that need to work together. There's all like the different types of electricity. It's the same one, but the chargers are so different. The networks via which you use to charge your cars are just so diverse. And we realized that people would like to use Go. People would like to use TypeScript to declare their pipelines. And the next iteration of Dagger, that's what it brings. Let's just hold that thought for 1 second. That's just a preview of how many types of chargers there are. And things are messy, you know, like if you're confused, I'm confused too. It doesn't help the idea of owning an electric car. If you have to consider the infrastructure, what are you going to do about it, there's like all sorts of problems. But it's still a worthy endeavor, and we are getting there slowly. The new version of Dagger, we are calling it Project Cloak. Cloak and Dagger. Ask me afterwards if you want to know. The Project Cloak embeds BuildKit. That's one big difference. It's not external, it's part of it. So all that you know, you're using this binary, the CLI, you run things against it, that's it. It just manages all these dependencies, and they are embedded in itself. As I mentioned, people prefer writing Go, TypeScript, so those are the two first language support that we've added. Q is coming in hot, Python also. What we realize is that you don't have to choose, right? You've already made your choice, so why wouldn't you use what you're already comfortable with? Why force you through YAML, as great as it is? You will have typos, it's just unavoidable. How about, for example, LSP support? How about self-documenting SDKs and code and all that? Well, we are already familiar with our editors. There's a very good integration with that. And while we did build the QLSP, it's not everyone has it installed. You know, there's like some challenges around it. Go and TypeScript, I think it's a solved problem. So that's what we did. Now, some of you may be asking me, hey, Gerhard, where's the demo? Apparently, Solomon gave a very good demo at VMware Explore. No, he definitely did. He gave a great demo. It's not apparent anything about it. He gave a great demo at VMware Explore. This was 2 weeks ago, very recent. He introduced Cloak. He introduced how it works. This was first, Solomon, he took a break from public speaking. This is his first public talk in quite some time. And I really enjoyed it. So I watched it. I was heckling, not him, the others, but it was still good. It was still a good experience. I couldn't heckle him, but I tried. Anyways, it was good. So if you want to see how it works in practice, I couldn't have done a better job than Solomon did, so that's the one that I recommend. Okay. If you're curious and you want to see, okay, I just want to find out more, I want to play with it, there's dagger.io/cloak. You can go there, you can request access. It will take a while for people to be approved because it's a slow process. The reason why I mention that is because this is not finished. It's still actively being developed. There's still a lot of things which we're figuring out. There's still a lot of feedback that users are giving us. As you can imagine, once you start supporting many different languages, things start getting a bit complicated. And that's all good. It just means that we want to do a good job, a good first version publicly, and that means that we are slowly working with those that want to work with us to define what it looks like. So it is more of a collaboration than give me the product, give me the documentation, and let me just follow along and build it. That's not how this type of access will work. And this Project Cloak right now, it's at a different stage. How many of you here have seen Long Way Up? Okay. So Long Way Up is an Apple TV Plus show. As far as I know, it's the only platform where it's been published. It's about these two chaps that decided to make the longest journey on electric bikes from the southernmost part of South America all the way through Central America, all the way to Los Angeles. I think 14 or 15,000 miles. It's a very long distance. Through places where chargers are non-existent. This is a great analogy of where Project Cloak is today. And while things are moving very fast, sometimes we do have to use a diesel generator to charge our electric bikes. Okay, the irony is not lost on me, but sometimes that's what needs to happen. It's just practical. We will get there. We'll have a lot of fun, but that is a good show to watch, and it shows some of the challenges that these two chaps had to go. And I'm not going to give away the names. I'll let you discover that for yourself if you're interested. All right. How many here are familiar with this picture? You recognize it? Okay, okay. So I have been talking about cars and about engines. The idea that I wouldn't like you to take away from this is that we have components and we're building a car. We're not doing the first stage. Okay, that's not what is happening here. So Dagger version 0.1 is when I mentioned the episode, November 2021. That's the one that we are using even today to deploy changelog.com, the website, all the updates, it manages it. It has been in use for 9 months, something like that, 10 months, maybe slightly longer. It works very well. We still use it today. We pinned it. There's no problems. Version 0.2 came along, and if you're following along, that is the slightly happier person, which has a better DX and things are more improved. So that is what is available publicly today. And many people use it in production, some great names, but again, I'll let you discover that for yourselves. I think it's either the bike or the motorbike that we're working on right now. That's about where we are, okay? I'm not sure whether it's an electric motorbike or an electric bike. We're somewhere around there. Okay. Dagger on GitHub, you can go and have a look. There's a release every single week. I'm a big fan of shipping it. And every week, I think a new release needs to go out. It's very important. Fixes, features, whatever may happen. And that has been the case. Automatically, they just occur, so there's always something in them. The downside of that, I suppose, you always have to upgrade. And I don't know how people feel about that, but that's what we optimized for. Getting fresh new features out as soon as possible. You can go to dagger.io and check out the website, learn more about it. I'm Gerhard Lazu on Twitter, and there's Gerhard.io that you can go to. And actually, I would like to do that right now. All right, so let me exit full screen. If I go to Gerhard.io, what I want to show you is that it's today. So there's the talk. The slides that I was giving, they're already public. So if you want to look at them, if you want to share them with someone, that's how you can get them. You can do that. And there's one last very important thought. So we love automation. We love making things efficient. We love making things fast, and how can we improve them? But there's something very important that we keep missing. And I would tell you that, but I think there's someone else. If that person told you that thing, I think you'd be more receptive to what it means. So I will let him have the privilege.
Yeah, I think the focus on those fundamentals, because the reason why I think we find ourselves as practitioners, as an industry as a whole, constantly migrating between different platforms, journeys, and digital transformations. We do this because I don't think we ever understood the fundamentals. The fundamentals are very clear. If you're thinking about like application delivery, for example, we know what the fundamentals are. Ideally, we're versioning our software. Then we need to build that software in a reproducible way. 15 years ago, maybe you were just creating WAR files or zip files. Maybe you were sophisticated and you were creating RPMs or dev files so you can use a package manager. Those have always been good ideas. And so we know packaging is a byproduct, or the artifact of assembling code and its dependencies and getting it ready to run. If you did that 15 years ago, adopting something like Docker is not hard to do. You say, okay, we're going to take the RPM, and we're going to put the RPM in a Docker file, and then package it up. Just another packaging step. And if you decouple the packaging from the deployment, then you get the ability to change just the last mile. So even if you're just using RPMs, and then you add container packaging, and even if you're using something like Puppet to deploy those RPMs, in parallel now, you can actually just swap out the Puppet step for the Docker step, and it works. But you have to understand the fundamentals and the boundaries between these concepts. So I think as an industry, we've been pushing automate, and we haven't been saying understand. Because if you understand what you're doing, you can automate if you want to. And sometimes I've seen teams where maybe you don't need to automate as much anymore. Because if you really have a clean process that says, okay, we've automated the production of a Docker container. And look, we don't really have more than 2 environments. So QA says, Docker run this container image. It works. We go to production. Docker run the same container image. It works. And maybe that's all your team needs to do. And look, that's okay. But I think understanding allows us to make that decision, and then we can decide what tool is the best for the job. So that would be hopefully the best takeaway today, is that these fundamentals can be applied by different tools. And the tools are not the fundamentals. It's the ideas and concepts that we have been talking about today.
My response wasn't as interesting as Kelsey's, but that's the link if you want to hear what I was replying to what he just mentioned.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Okay. That is it. That is the end. I mean, I can give you one more takeaway if you want. Okay, I can see some head nods. So, I didn't realize just how important documenting things was until I heard Kelsey tell it in a slightly different way. Different people have been telling me the same thing, just document. I say, what do you mean? It's a make file. Run make, you see all the targets, you run the one that you want, done. Like, what is there to document? And I was missing a very important piece in this puzzle. And that was the understanding of what is happening behind the scenes. And talking about it helps, giving presentations about it helps. But when you're trying to solve a problem, you want good documentation. So how can we bring the documentation to the automation? How can we make it one and the same thing? I don't have the answer to that, but I think there's something there. I think there's something when we try to automate, the automation has certain value, but I think the understanding that we capture in a written format for another human maybe has even more value. So that's something which I'm thinking about as I'm continuing on my Dagger journey and trying to build something that we can all enjoy using, something that's simple, something that's fast, something that, I don't know, it just works. I think that's what we all want, right? We don't want problem after problem after problem. There's like so many layers, the complexity is getting only worse. And there are things which we can do about it. I don't think just documenting it will make the problems go away, but I think it will help. And who are we writing for? That's something which I think as well. Is it like who is the user reading this? And I enjoyed reading a lot of great documentation. I think the Unix man pages, there's a lot of great stuff there. They're not the easiest ones to search or understand sometimes. I wish there were sometimes more examples. But that just goes to show that you get the documentation with a tool. It's there. It's local. If you don't have an internet, that's okay. Just man, and it's there. So that's one important thing for me. Now, I think we do have time for some questions. Not many, but I'll be around afterwards. I'm looking forward to talking to you. There's a couple of inconsistencies, by the way, and a couple of unanswered questions in my talk. I do those things on purpose. I just want to see who's been paying attention. And the ones that have been paying attention, they come to me, hey, that thing, like, what's up with that? So there's a few there. If you haven't noticed them, that's okay. It's not a problem. But I look forward to any and all conversations. Thank you very much.